Hey everybody, welcome to Afterlife Topics Metaphysics, and I'm coming at you right now from the Ufology World Congress in Barcelona, Spain. It's at the Hotel Hesperanza, and it's a very beautiful place. Kind of looks like a UFO, which is appropriate given the subject that we are talking about here. And if you've been following this channel, you'll know that I heard about this conference when I was in North India, a few months ago teaching English. I met my friend L. Light, who invited me to the conference. And one of the reasons I really wanted to go is because I saw that keynote speaker that her and the other co-founder managed to put on was none other than Dr. Mikio Kaku, who is one of the world's most eminent scientists. And he is known as one of the founders of string theory. So again, putting him in the position of one of the most influential scientists, and he has this really notable interest in the subject of UFOs. And so I really wanted to come and see what he had to say about the subject. And so now I'm in Barcelona, traveling as I always do on a shoestring budget, but pulling it off. And Kaku's main speech was steeped heavily in what we call transhumanism. And if you've read my second book, you'll know that I have a few opinions about transhumanism. I think that it is a kind of a failed philosophy. It's part of a materialist sort of agenda. And it's not all bad, but basically transhumanism is the desire to replace spirituality with technology, coming from a position of disbelieving that spiritual concepts are real or can be real, that consciousness has any role to play in the universe. So it's a very flawed philosophy, and it's very alarming to me. So we're going to pick that apart in this video before we continue. If you like this kind of thing, if you like what we're talking about here, please go down, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the share button. All of that keeps this whole thing going. Or you could support the work, get involved, do a donation, maybe purchase a consultation from me for $50, and I talk about everything from helping people get in touch with their deceased loved ones to initiating out-of-body experiences, and also just analyzing things in your life from a spiritual perspective. And that's basically donation level prices, helps keep this whole operation going. So yeah, if you want to get involved, there's links down in the description. So to continue with this video, so Dr. Kaku's address here is basically, first of all, it was of course, he's one of the world's most eminent scientists as well as speakers, public speakers, so he can make a great public presentation, and he was showing a lot of open-mindedness about the UFO topic as it has developed in the last couple of years. So in the last couple of years, there has been a huge influx of basically mainstream UFO disclosure in the news, coming out of the mainstream news being released by the United States government. That just go on YouTube, type in the U.S. Nimitz UFO, and look at officially released UFO footage of fighter jets tailing these crazy aircraft that seem to defy physics. And so this is the new era of a mainstream ufology, and it's really exciting. And so that's another reason I really wanted to come to this conference. But the issue with Dr. Kaku's presentation is that he essentially was postulating futurism, talking about how ET civilizations may exist, how they may interact, and all that's good. But I find questionable some of these transhumanist ideas. The first one that he pushes is the idea of uploading your consciousness into a machine, or recreating the individual self and basically converting it digitally to ones and zeros. And because from the supposition that consciousness is not real, it therefore becomes theoretically possible to turn something that's already artificial into a digital copy by just converting it digitally. And once this is done, then it's much like the film Avatar. You could theoretically put your consciousness into the body of an artificial construct, a machine, anything like that, and use that to safely explore the cosmos, which again is a cool concept out of science fiction. But I think that the way he is coming at this idea is very flawed, because again, he's a materialist, so he doesn't believe in a soul, he doesn't believe in what we call a higher dimensional element of the consciousness of the self. It's instead, consciousness is this kind of illusionary byproduct as a result of synapses and things in the brain, which is what materialists believe. And so going from that assumption, ignoring the heaps and heaps of evidence to the contrary, they will use that assumption and then believe that you can therefore recreate everything about a human person, maybe a deceased person. You can recreate everything about them just by using a program to predict the types of behavior that a person would do. And so this would actually recreate a person, and there's no difference between a sentient you and me right now and that computer program. And all you have to do is basically upload that into a machine, and now you have a new version of you that somehow you would be aware of. Like, it doesn't actually make a lot of sense when you think about it, when you break that concept down. Like, how do you transfer the conscious awareness into a program that is essentially copying you, that is mimicking you? So I find that very difficult to believe. Now, some people have said that similar things like this are even happening right now, but and these are like the insiders. Like, if you follow some of the alleged sort of deep government insiders like Emery Smith or Corey Goode or Jason Rice, like, these guys claim that we actually have technology right now that does something similar to this. But if you believe those guys, and I take them kind of with a grain of salt, or a big grain of salt, they claim that it operates differently, that they have discovered how to sort of pinpoint the higher dimensional mechanism of consciousness, and to be able to take the awareness part that's being channeled through the receiver, known as the brain, and be able to contain that artificially into something that works the same way, to be able to specifically take your consciousness, your soul, if you want to call it that, out of your body, and then be able to put it into, as Kaku talks about, some kind of an artificial replicant that you can then launch it into space and safely explore the cosmos, again, like the film Avatar. So, I mean, the theory is right, but, Kaku, again, is coming at it from a materialist angle. But I also want to go a little bit deeper and talk about the bigger problem with transhumanism. So the issue with transhumanism is that it's an attempt basically to simulate spiritual concepts coming from the supposition that spirituality is not real, that you cannot organically do the things that actually we can do, so we have to replace that with technology doing it for us. An example is telepathy. And there's been a lot of research into telepathy. You can read a book like Real Magic by Dean Radin, or many, many other books. There's a lot of research. This isn't some kind of a fringe thing anymore. We know that because consciousness can exist outside the brain, it can do all these crazy things that the materialist establishment is too afraid to admit. So if we can accomplish telepathy, and naturally if we train ourselves, why do we need some creepy organization? Something tells me it's going to probably be Apple computers doing it first, injecting a chip into our skulls so that we can begin communicating telepathically with people on some app on our iPhone. That sounds super creepy to me, but it's coming from the supposition that we have to use technology to be able to do these things. Kaku talks a lot about immortality, uploading our consciousness so that we can live forever. Although he doesn't use the word consciousness, because I think he's a materialist. I don't think he believes in that type of thing. He doesn't believe there is consciousness. He believes uploading the personality algorithm into a computer, therefore making us immortal. Well, we talk about this channel, topic of life after death. That's my main thing. So we know that we're already immortal. What about changing it so that we can simply leave this body and then control our consciousness to go into other bodies in the material dimension, or, go into higher dimensions and from that point come back down into other bodies down here. And so this is the really limited way that some of these guys and some of the people I've heard at this UFO conference, they're really kind of the way that they're kind of stuck in their old paradigm is that they're assuming if there is, and I'm certain there is, higher dimensional extraterrestrial life, they're not thinking about it in terms of higher dimensions. They're thinking about it in terms of our materialistic way of looking at things, which is really, really a silly way to approach this subject. So when we're talking about higher dimensional entities, they're not operating based on our materialism. So they don't necessarily need transhumanism to teleport around or to do telepathic work or even to operate their ships. All of this can be done when consciousness develops sufficiently enough that it can manifest or control the physical environment. I mean, there's reports. This is just reports. It's not something that's I'd use as evidence, but there are reports of great yogis and great masters and great Buddhist masters, great Hindu masters who have been able to materialize and dematerialize here in the physical plane. But these are certainly things that we can do when we're in other worlds. When we're doing astral projection, we can teleport and we can do these things using our mind. The barriers between the physical reality and consciousness come closer together. And if you believe much about like Jesus basically said that his powers are things that we all can do as well. The lesson being that whether it's materializing or telepathy or all manner of higher dimensional powers, it's in our capability to someday learn how to do those things. And if you ask yogis the same question, they will say the same thing, which is that it is in our capability to learn how to do those types of things, and we don't need to have chips implanted into us to be able to do it. So it is this weird, creepy, artificial spirituality that comes out of a supposition of materialism. And that to me is something to be concerned about. It's why I don't agree with transhumanism. And I think that it's kind of like a red herring. Now, it's not all bad. I think in the short term, some of this stuff could be very beneficial. And let me tell you, if there was technology right now to stop aging and to allow us to live as long as we wanted to using technology, like I would do it because I have work to do here and I want to stick around this world and see how it progresses and how it develops. I don't, if I want to extend my life as long as I can personally. And so I would do it if it was available, but it's not, it should never be a replacement to us organically evolving and being able to reach those places naturally. If you get involved in kind of the ET field, ET communication, you'll learn that so-called ETs, what they are is higher dimensional beings who have learned over the advancement of their civilizations to be able to do these things. So while Kaku is talking about, harnessing the power of the sun for propulsion systems for spacecraft, like again, he's thinking in 3D materialist physics. These ETs don't even have to do that. All they have to do is plug their consciousness into their ship and teleport it wherever it wants to go. And that seems to be how these things work. I mean, I've been researching a little bit about James Gilliland and ESETI Ranch and all that cool stuff and like the contacts that they've had there. And like these so-called UFOs are totally extra-dimensional entities that are coming down. It's not even proper to think of it as a nuts and bolts like flying disc in the air. It's more like these are things coming in from other higher dimensions in certain locations where I guess it's easier for them to kind of warp in and do that. So it's not like in science fiction like we normally think about, like in some Isaac Asimov novel where you have like a type 1, type 2, type 3 civilizations where they're harnessing like the whole power of the solar system, the power of the sun to power the spacecraft. It's not really like that. It could be much more a matter of a civilization harnessing the power of their own consciousness to be able to do things that our science doesn't yet think is possible. So overall, my feeling about transhumanism is just be really cautious about it. And if you talk to most transhumanists, you'll also find that they're materialists. And that's a big warning sign right there, because they refuse to accept spiritual principles. They're trying to supplicate that using technology. Don't think that's a good thing. Well, that's about it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you like this kind of stuff, check out some of my books like Understanding Life After Death or The Afterlife and Beyond. All of that is at afterlifetopics.com. You can get involved in the Facebook group. Almost 10,000 members now in the Facebook group, so that's pretty awesome. It's a pain in the butt for all of us admins to keep that group going sometimes, but we do it because we love the subject. We want to keep this community going. And again, if you want to get involved on a closer level, we have some really cool guests coming up that will be on this channel. But if you want to see those interviews early and participate, you can become a patron at patreon.com/Afterlife Topics. Be able to join in on some of these guest interviews. We have people coming up soon, like Keith Clark, an ITC expert. We have Robert Blackburn coming up in a few weeks. He is a developing physical medium, and some more guests coming up after that. So we have more guests, more stuff coming up. So it's all exciting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.